guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am so glad that you found me. This is Mindy Mom and we are in my kitchen right now. Today I'm going to be doing a little meal prepping. I thought I would show you what I am prepping. I am thinking specifically about lunches or lunch type meals, so stay tuned. Okay, you guys, school is back in session. Husband is working his normal schedule. I am trying to get work done around my house. I have decided that we need to get our act together where lunches are concerned. Sometimes we eat leftovers. Obviously, you know, we pack school lunches. My husband takes his lunch to work sometimes. Sometimes he has lunch appointments. I feel like when we think of meal prep or lunch prep, we think of like all the little containers lined up neatly with the meat and the rice and the veggies, or the entree and the sides and everything like all the same and perfectly portioned. That's not really what I have in mind today for this video, but I thought I would show you just a few of the things that I'm doing right now all at once to make lunches a little bit easier. And when I say lunch, sometimes I just mean quick meals. I mean, I'm thinking mostly about lunch, but sometimes my kids eat a second lunch when they get home from school. I mean, let's face it, kids, they're eating me out of house and home. They need a pre-breakfast before they eat breakfast, and they need a second lunch when they get home, and then they need a pre-dinner snack and a post-dinner dinner. So I hope that I can give you some ideas or some inspiration, even if we're not making, you know, pre-portioned specific meals for lunches throughout the week, although we're going to do a little bit of that. But even if we aren't doing that, just some things that I am doing that help put together meals and snacks a little bit quicker. So here we go. So let's talk about sandwiches for just a second. I feel like when we think of packing lunches, especially school lunches for kids, we think of sandwiches. That's kind of like the quintessential lunchbox entree, right? And we've got, you know, turkey lunch meat, we've got peanut butter, we've kind of got your standard sandwich making things, but that gets old after a while, right? Sometimes when we are starting to feel a little bit of sandwich fatigue, especially at the end of the summer when we've been eating a lot of sandwiches, I feel like changing up just one or two things can kind of help us get back in the rhythm and just, you know, kind of spice things up a little bit, jazz things up a little bit, if you will. One of the things I will do sometimes is just to change the kind of bread, like maybe buy a really good sourdough bread or get some rolls or some croissants. Another thing, of course, is to change up what we're putting in the sandwich. So I have already made up some bacon today, because who doesn't like a crispy piece of bacon in their sandwich or crumbled up on their salad? I just made the bacon on a foil covered cookie sheet in the oven. That is the easiest way that I find to cook bacon. If you do it that way, be careful because the grease is still very hot. I just put mine in the oven at 375. It usually takes it about 10 to 12 minutes to crisp up. So I've got that already done and ready to go. But the other thing that I did this morning was throw some chicken breast into the crock pot so that I can shred that up for a few things that we're gonna do in this video. I think it was about a 5-pound package of chicken breast. I put it in the crock pot on high and I just seasoned it with some salt and pepper, some onion powder and garlic powder, because I'm going to use it for a couple of different things, like I said. One of the things that I'm going to do with that chicken is make crack chicken. That's basically a chicken mixture with cream cheese and bacon and ranch seasoning. And I'm actually making that ahead of time because I plan to put it in the refrigerator. That way we can use it to make sandwiches, to make salads, to make wraps. And I thought that would just be something different for us to use for lunches. Another thing that sometimes helps us kind of change up our sandwich making options are to make something delicious to put in the sandwich or something to dip the sandwich in. So I am actually going to make some Chuy's jalapeno dip the way that I make it, like a copycat version of Chuy's creamy jalapeno dip that will be great with sandwiches or on salads. I am delighted to be partnering again with Green Chef to bring you this video. Green Chef is a USDA certified organic company that offers meal kits designed by expert chefs delivered right to your door. With 9 meals to choose from each week, it's easy to eat well and discover new recipes with Green Chef. Recipes are quick and easy with step-by-step instructions, chef tips, and photos to guide you along, plus everything is handpicked and delivered right to your door. I think when most people think of delivered meal kits, they're imagining dinners, which is, of course, a great way to utilize Green Chef. But don't forget that these meal kits make fantastic lunch prepping options, which is how I utilize them the most. Both my husband and I eat lunch from home multiple days a week, so having some options that are easy to grab and go to work with my husband or reheat at home for me is a must to streamline our very busy weeks. Since Green Chef's meals include pre-made, measured sauces, dressings, and spices, it's easy for me to whip a few of these up on a Sunday afternoon or evening and have them ready to go in the fridge for the week ahead. Right now, Green Chef is offering a discount, so you can let them do your meal planning, grocery shopping, and even some of the prep work to enjoy delicious meals you make right in your own kitchen. Go to greenchef.us and use code Mindy100 to get $100 off plus free shipping on your first box. You can see as I'm making the meals here that ingredients come pre-measured, perfectly portioned, and mostly prepped, and you can choose whether you want your meals to come ready to make 2, 4, or 6 servings, so they're a good option for households of many sizes. In addition, Green Chef offers meal plans for a variety of lifestyles, including vegan, vegetarian, keto, and paleo. We have particularly enjoyed the plant-powered boxes from Green Chef, and the meals I made this week were entirely plant-based. The mole roasted carrots with cumin spiced rice, pinto beans, corn, and roasted peppers came complete with a side of guacamole. And the linguine with basil pesto was fantastic, either hot or cold. Thank you again to Green Chef for sponsoring today's video, and don't forget to visit the link in the description box, greenchef.us, and use the code Mindy100 for $100 off plus free shipping on your first box. My chicken is done, you guys, and I actually drained off some of the broth that it produced, and that is going to come in handy. You'll see why here in a minute, but I'm just going to use my hand mixer here, and I'm going to shred this up. All done, and that took me like 20 seconds. So I'm gonna pull out about a cup or so of this, maybe a cup and a half of this, just, a heaping handful of it, and set it aside for another recipe that I'm getting ready to start. And then to this crock pot, I'm going to put in a brick of cream cheese, some of my bacon, about 2 tablespoons of my homemade ranch seasoning, and I'm gonna put it back on low so that the cream cheese starts to melt. I'm gonna stir that all together and then add in some cheddar cheese, and I'm gonna have my crack chicken ready to cool down and put in the refrigerator. One of the things that I have been meaning to do for a while is refill my homemade spice containers. I make ranch mix from scratch and I make taco seasoning from scratch using just a blend of seasonings that I have played around with, and I have come up with the recipes that are suited to us. I use these recipes so much that I actually keep them taped inside my spice cabinet up here for quick reference. So I'm going to go ahead and make some taco seasoning because we've been out for a while, and I plan to do a nacho bar sometime this week for lunches while we're watching football, so that will come in handy. And I also need some ranch seasoning for a couple of things I'm going to do here really quickly, so I will try to pop up the recipe on the screen as I'm making it. And I also have a video in the description box that I made a while back where I talk specifically about these recipes and other things that I make from scratch for seasoning. a huge fan of the chicken and wild rice soup from Panera. I have not seen it though in several months, and it's not like I eat at Panera every day, so maybe I'm just not hitting the Panera on the right day in order to get that soup. But it's like a really just creamy soup, and I like the broccoli cheddar too, but the chicken and wild rice is my favorite. But like I said, every time I open up my app to put an order in, anytime in the last year, they have not had that soup available. So I don't know if it's just my Paneras, or like I said, if I'm just not going there on the right day or ordering from there on the right day. But I decided that I am going to attempt to make some. I found a recipe on Pinterest. I will leave the recipe that I'm working from linked in the description box below. I'll probably make some adjustments to it as I go, but I just thought that I would try to make some as a lunch prep and we could eat it, you know, over the next couple of days. But also I'm going to freeze a few portions of it as well. So let's jump in and I'll show you what I'm doing. Here are the ingredients for my Copycat Panera chicken and wild rice soup. I have about a cup each of diced onion, celery, and carrots. If you want to get really fancy, this is called mirepoix. That's French, y'all. I have about 3 tablespoons of butter. It calls for 6 cups of chicken broth. I'm going to use the chicken broth that rendered from cooking the chicken in the crock pot. And I'm just going to make up the difference with water and broth base. 3 cups of half and half, about 3 cups of shredded cooked chicken, 1 box of long grain and wild rice. And then because we're using the seasoning packet from the rice to season this, it doesn't call for a lot of seasoning, so just salt and pepper, and then about a 1/4 cup of flour. Now I'm going to make this slightly different than the website that I got the idea from. Like I said, I will leave that linked in the description box below, but that recipe calls for 12 tablespoons of butter. And I think I can make this a little bit lighter. I feel like it's going to be plenty rich with the half and half in it. So I'm just going to use the butter to saute the vegetables, and then you'll see how I'm putting this together. I'm actually not going to make the roux. I'm going to combine the flour with the half and half when I add that at the end. So let's get started. So as you can see, this recipe starts out by sauteing the mirepoix in the butter, and then I added my broth and my water and my broth base and the rice and the seasoning mix to the pot. I brought that to a boil, and then I turned it down to low and let it simmer for about 20 to 25 minutes until the rice was cooked. The main difference between what I'm doing here and what the original recipe that I posted in the description box says to do is that I'm actually just going to shake the half and half in a jar with the flour and then pour that directly into the pot to help thicken the sauce. I did not make a roux with the butter and the flour because that allowed me to use a little bit less butter. So after I did that with the half and half in the flour, I just poured it back into the pot and I added the chicken as well, and I let this come up to a simmer, and this was absolutely delicious. We loved this. I will definitely be making this again. Okay, so I have the rest of my soup here. I did have 1 helping of this for lunch, and it was fantastic. I have to say, at least according to what I can remember, it does taste like the Panera chicken and wild rice soup that I remember. It was so good. So I have about 2 helpings in this bowl, this glass bowl that I'm going to cover, and I'll put in the refrigerator because we'll probably eat those in the next few days. And then I have 4 helpings that I'm going to freeze. And yes, these are like random containers that used to hold other things. I am that person who saves the little plastic containers, and I try to use them a few more times before they go in the recycle bin. And they come in really handy for freezing things. And I do like to freeze things in single servings because, especially my husband, but sometimes me as well, if we don't have any fresh leftovers in the fridge like this, we can pull these single serving items out of the freezer and we can have them for lunch. And we actually, I think, just ran out of these. We may have 1 more little like single serving of pasta in there, but my husband has been taking these for lunch this week. So this will come in handy because I will be able to kind of replenish our little freezer meals. And this will be so great, especially in like a couple weeks when we finally see a cool down or like a rainy fall day, and we can have one of these for lunch. But this turned out great. I can highly recommend. You should definitely try the recipe. It worked out fine the way that I made it without using 12 tablespoons of butter. So I highly recommend it. I feel like one of the best things about a delicious cup or bowl of soup from Panera is getting that little baguette on the side that you can dip in. So I have a baguette here, but instead of just putting this whole thing in the freezer, I decided I would go ahead and chop this into chunks, into like little 4 or 5 inch chunks, and put those in a Ziploc baggie and then put them into the freezer that way, so that as I take out the soup in single portions, I can also take out 1 or 2 portions of the bread to have along with it. So I hope that works out. Okay, so we are making my version of my Copycat version of a Chuy's creamy jalapeno dip or dressing. And I know it doesn't look very pretty, but in this cup, I have about 1 cup of plain Greek yogurt. Don't use vanilla yogurt in your jalapeno dip, you guys, okay? It's plain Greek yogurt. I'm using whole milk Greek yogurt. To this blender cup, I am going to add 2 tablespoons of my homemade ranch mix. Now I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon of minced garlic. I'm going to add, this is about 1/3 of a pretty large jalapeno. I mean, you can kind of decide how much jalapeno you want to put in it depending on your taste. So, and I don't worry about chopping it up because I'm going to blend it all up anyway in my blender. And then I'm also going to use the juice from about half of a lime here. And then I'm just going to pop the top on this and put it into my Ninja blender. And sometimes I have to add just like a little bit of milk, like a teaspoon or 2 of milk if it's too thick. I almost forgot, you guys. I'm going to add a little bit of cilantro to this as well. That's totally optional. I know cilantro's kind of a hot button topic. You know, everybody either loves it or hates it, so you can leave that out if you're not a cilantro fan, but we like it okay, so I'm gonna put it in there. All right, you guys, that is what I have for you today. Thank you again for watching, and thank you again to Green Chef for sponsoring this video. And be sure to follow the link in the description box below and use the code Mindy100 to get $100 off your first 4 boxes. I'll be sure to check in again with another video very soon, you guys.